Welcome everyone to episode 58 of the Phoenix Report. I am Jack Connor, and with me today is a guy who's coming back for a second time, and his first interview that we did a couple episodes back, which I think was a couple years ago now, was one of my favorite episodes of this podcast that I've ever done, for a lot of reasons. For one, I was a fan of this guy's work for many, many years from his first band. He was in a band called Black Tide. They've toured all over the world, and now he's doing the same thing with another very famous band called Falling in Reverse. Those guys have been killing it over the last couple of years, and he is still a member of that band. Although I understand that he's taken some time off from, and is, as far as I know, is still a member of the band, but is just not on their current tour. So, and I'm sure he'll get into some more of the details on that. But it's just been very cool for me to see the career of this guy, another Florida musician who ended up making it big at a very young age, and ended up getting a second chance to perform at that level again, which is really cool just to see his career blossom the way it has. I mean, this guy's younger than me, but I feel like I'm looking up to him because he's got all that experience. So it's really been cool to see that, and also to kind of strike up a friendship with him, and it's to kind of go from like being a fan of his work and to knowing this guy. I mean, not that we hang out all that often because he lives in Nashville, Tennessee now, but yeah, it's just been really cool to get to know this guy over the years, and I really appreciate having him back on the show. So without further ado, please welcome back Zakk Sandler.
Thank you, sir. Actually, it's funny when you were saying my second time with this. This is actually my third time.
Well, that's true. I do remember that you did some fill-in work for Escape the Fate a couple years back.
Oh no, I mean us talking. We a year ago.
That's right. I should say this is the second time we've done like the traditional one-on-one interview. Yeah. But I did have you on a while back as sort of like a group discussion talking about Chester Bennington.
Yeah, which was it's crazy that it's been. God, has it been 2 years? A year? 2 years.
I mean, that was just such a crazy time when just that whole series of events when we lost, Chester and then Chris Cornell just 2 months before that.
Yeah.
That was just such a surreal time in music, especially in the rock world. And I remember, talking, from your perspective, I know that you didn't really know Chester all that well, but you had, I think you had met him once or twice maybe during your career.
Yeah, I had some brief interactions with him, which he was always a really nice dude in what I saw. And like, it was, I mean, like I said on there before, like there's no way to tell from when you look at that outside happiness, what's actually going on the inside.
Absolutely.
And I think that he was a prime example of you could have it all. Mm-hmm. Everything in life could be perfect, but that doesn't actually mean that everything's that great.
Well, I mean, especially in this line of work, Zach. I mean, you have so many people who, people, rightly so, they look at all the glamorous parts of being a rock star and all that comes with it, but so many, but it's not the easiest life. From what I can understand. Now, obviously, I haven't done all the things you've done, but certainly, I mean, when you're at the level of a Chester Bennington, but still, musicians are sensitive people, and they're artists, and sometimes they have stuff going on inside them that need to get out, and Chester was no different. He was a human being like anyone else, and he had his issues, and it's just a shame that it got the better of him.
Yeah, no, it really is, and it's funny because like. Kind of as you were like talking a little bit how now I'm kind of off the road right now and kind of just focusing on like my life again.
Right. Now I did want to clarify, you are still a member of Falling in Reverse, are you not?
I am. Okay. It's funny because like like I removed it from my bio.
Sure.
On Instagram. I removed everything from my bio.
Right.
Because I have this weird thing about me that I don't want people to like follow me or be interested in what I'm doing.
Sure.
Just based on like, oh, well, you're in this band, so I like you. I'm like, no, either you like me for me or you fucking don't. Like,
that has to be such a strange thing, especially when you experience that bit of success, when you meet people and you don't know whether they're friendly to you because of your music or your talent or what have you, as opposed to making a genuine connection. I imagine that has to mess with a lot of people's heads.
It does, and it's funny because like I see it a little bit here. Funny enough, I was joking with it. I went and got like my beard trimmed and my haircut yesterday, and the reason I went to this one particular place here in Hendersonville where I'm living, which is just like a suburb of Nashville, basically. Right. This barbershop started following me on Instagram because they were like, oh, it's that dude in this band and he lives here. So I went there because I was like, well, they started following me. I didn't know they existed. But like when I went in, they were super nice. Like, you know, I kind of understood the whole, like, you know, seeing their vibe. I was like, of course you guys followed me because I'm in this band. But, like, I appreciate the fact that they were just nice to me because they're nice human beings. But I was like, what if I was just, like, the dude who came in off the street? Are you still going to treat me as nice and talk to me and be as cordial with me? Or is it just because you like this band that I play in?
Yeah, so I imagine being on the other side of that. I mean, you know, because I've been fortunate enough over the years to meet people of various, you know, degrees of fame or success or what have you. And especially if I'm a fan of theirs, I almost try to be extra careful to not be that kind of fan, if that makes sense.
Right.
Like
absolutely.
Like I feel, you know, I remember I was in this piano bar a couple years ago with some friends of mine. It was in Tampa, and Chris Jericho happened to be in there. Now,
yes.
Now I'm a massive Chris Jericho fan from wrestling and his music and everything, and he was just, and Chris was just kind of there. He was like having some beers with his friends. He might have had a few too many. I wasn't sure. He looked a little extra rowdy that night. But like my buddy was like, "Oh, Jack, there's Chris Jericho over there. You should go say hi to him." And I felt weird. I'm like, no, like he probably doesn't want that right now. Like he probably gets people coming up to him all the time. I don't want to be that guy right now. Like there's time and place, and I've gotten to meet him a couple times at meet and greets and book signings and what have you. And I've even got to sing on stage with him before. But it's still like he doesn't like. Yeah, no, that's a true story. But it's like I don't know him like that. You know what I mean? Like and it's same with meeting a guy like yourself, whose, you know, music I've been a fan of for years. It's like I didn't want to come off as like clingy and just be that kind of thing, and or try to be like, oh, I'm going to meet this guy because maybe he can help me in my career. Like, no, that's never, like, for me, that's never what I've been all about. And I imagine there are a lot of people like that. But at the same time, you know, I'm sure you meet people who may be like that, and so you probably are a little bit extra guarded.
Yeah, I mean, definitely so. With that being said, though, I can be guilty of the same thing. Like, you know, fortunately, because of where I've been in this industry, like, I have gotten to meet people that I've looked up to since, you know, I was like 12 years old and shit.
Sure.
And it is that thing where I'm like, I can shoot a text to, like, you know, like a friend now who like plays in a much larger band, who I'm like, I listened to your band when I was 12 years old. Now we're friends and we text each other stupid shit all the time. Exactly. And it is that thing where I'm like, oh yeah, we're just friends because we like to hang out. We come from a similar place. Like, but there is that fine line where you have to watch yourself, because you're like, I am still a fan of this person. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And it's, you know, it goes to all different, levels of it. Like there's a good friend of mine who's one of the DJs at the rock station here in Orlando, where I live.
Yeah.
And so, and he does a lot with local bands, and he's played my band on the station a bunch of times, and and he's helped us out in our career. But at the same time, I've been very careful to make sure of, like, you know, I mean, we're good friends now, but it's like I wanted to be clear with him, like, look, man, I'm friends with you because you're a cool dude, not necessarily because of what you can do for me.
Yeah, exactly.
And I try to make that very clear.
Well, and that goes a long way, you know. But I don't know. I guess when people start treating you like that, and I'm not saying like I get it excessively, because fortunately, while I've done a lot of cool shit, I've been around for a while, I'm not like, you know, of that status.
Right.
So I'm not too concerned with it in most of the circles that I run in. I also lead a pretty private life, honestly. Like, you know, I keep to myself a lot. I don't really divulge a lot of personal information on social media. I mean, like, you see me on Facebook, and, you know, obviously on my Facebook, anybody who's my Facebook friend has my phone number. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not just like adding like anybody willy-nilly on there. That's what Instagram is for. That's what all that shit is.
Right.
But so like kind of go back a little bit, like with me and like the not touring at the moment, really kind of started off with, hell, it's probably just after like Warped Tour.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to say like, oh, I was feeling like overwhelmed or anything by what was going on. I was actually, I didn't feel like I was busy enough or stable enough in my personal life to keep coming and going and not having like a good grasp on like home life and work life and, you know, kind of just like evolving and doing like my own thing. I was definitely feeling a bit, I would almost say underwhelmed by a lot of it.
Did you feel at that point that, you know, that your life had sort of just been all about work, all about the band, and you just maybe felt like the rest of it wasn't quite where you wanted it to be?
Yeah, kind of. Like, and it's not like a knock on anybody or anything. It's just, you know, it really is like just, it's almost like when you break up with somebody, you're like, it's not you, it's me. Like, it's really like, no, it's me. I need to go do this all for myself. Like, if I don't take a step back, I'm going to fucking lose my mind, or I'm going to crack. And in the last, oh God, I don't know, 3 years, actually since the first time that we sat down for one of these, for your podcast, a lot in my life has changed at that point.
So let's kind of catch up to speed on that. It was about 3 years ago when you and I first met face to face to do this, and I think at that point you had just joined Falling in Reverse, or at least were had very recently joined them. Like you were still, I think you were still.
Like it was about a year and a half.
I think you were still living in Orlando at the time, but you hadn't yet moved first out to LA and then now to Nashville.
Yeah. So to kind of fill the gap now from then to now. So when we met at that point, I was, and it's funny because if you listen to that conversation, the positivity that radiates off of where I was at in life was pretty significant. But it was like this bullshit positivity.
Explain.
So, literally, at that very moment, I was living with an ex, now an ex. My relationship was falling apart. My personal life felt terrible because of it. I had started drinking again.
Yeah, I remember we had talked about that you had been sober at that point. I don't know if you were when you were talking to me or not. It doesn't matter, but go ahead.
Yeah. So, like, my life around that, like, my personal life was just kind of coming crashing down around me. Not due to any external forces, not due to any single person or, you know, moment in life. Literally just because of me. Because I wasn't comfortable, like, in my own skin. I wasn't being honest with myself about, like, how I really felt about my life and my relationships. I wasn't in a good place. Like, and I thought it was funny because I feel like I remember I'd grown out my beard and my hair for like 6 months straight, and I looked like a fucking homeless man. Like, I was like, if that's not a sign that I'm not doing well,
I just assumed it was a fashion choice. You know, a lot of dudes go with that, but you know,
it was actually half of it was a bet, and then I started to like really enjoy it because I was like, yeah, I'm lazy.
I mean, I didn't recognize you at first when I first saw you, but you know, it was what it was.
Oh yeah, God, I looked very different. So my personal life was kind of turning into shit, and I don't know, I wasn't fully me. And I was really proud of my past at the moment, but I wasn't sure of my future, and my present was fucking dark. And so I went on Warped Tour, because what happens when your life is falling apart is you go on tour and you play rock shows.
That happens.
And on that tour, I remember we had a night where we were in New Orleans, and I like mentally fucking cracked. I was hammered. I remember exactly where I was sitting. I was sitting right outside the penthouse Playmate strip club or whatever the fuck it is.
Okay.
I was beyond hammered. I was sitting on the curb and I was like, I have to get sober. Oh my God. What the fuck is happening to me? And I completed that tour somehow. I don't remember a good portion of it, but I remember most of it. And I literally got off that tour and had the bus drop me off like a few blocks away from a rehab facility. So I checked myself in. Fortunately, a very nice organization took care of me, which if you ever, well, I'll say it, I don't give a shit. Music Cares took care of me.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of Music Cares. Yeah, that's
amazing.
Great.
Yeah, they're an amazing organization. Like, everybody who works there is just, like, on point. Like, they really cater to, to people in the industry who are going through it. Like, and yeah, phenomenal people. And that was out in LA. And that's when I decided I was just going to stay in LA. So I, checked myself in, got some help, committed myself to, to programs and all that fun stuff that comes with it. And I didn't even tour for like 2 months after that. I think I had like 2 months off or so. And I just worked on me. I wasn't even sure how I was going to feel about touring again. I wasn't sure how I was going to feel about making or playing music, because I felt very raw and I felt very disconnected from like the external world. I was just like, it's all about me right now. I have to fucking get me right. And then we went out to Australia and we did it wasn't even long. It was like a 10-day tour. And I just remember remembering every moment on stage and the feeling of like going up and playing my first sober show again and feeding off the crowd and feeling like the music and ultimately remembering why I love doing what I do. And it was amazing. And then I launched into a fuck ton of touring over the next, couple of years. And now I'm at a place where I can be like, cool, I'm actually going to be 3 years sober
that's
mid-August.
Awesome. Congratulations.
And thank you, sir. But more importantly, it's awesome. I don't drink. I'm not fucking touching any of the bullshit. For me, it really means I've had 3 years of getting my shit straight and being the person that I want to be. And I love that I can celebrate my sobriety and just having a future in, of living a more normal, quote unquote, normal life. But more importantly, I can sit back and go to sleep at night and be comfortable with who I am and most of my decisions. I'm not a fucking perfect person, and God knows I never will be. But yeah, but I'm definitely in a place where I feel better about myself. And when I do make decisions, whether they're big or small, deciding to take a step back from touring for a minute, and being more honest in my writing and just my daily affairs, it's really comforting to be in a place where I can do that and not be completely, utterly mortified of the future.
Yeah. Have there been certain things or changes you've made in your life that that are a little bit more therapeutic? Have you sought out therapy, or is there anything else you're doing with your downtime from the road that kind of helps you get whatever it is that you have inside out?
Well, yes and no. For a long time when I was living in Orlando, not terribly long time, but long enough to affect my wallet, I would go see a therapist twice a week, which at the time I wasn't into. I was going at the suggestion of others. So I went. I'd be like, yeah, I feel a little better talking about my feelings. Once I started subscribing to a 12-step program, I found that to really help. Mostly because it taught me to speak up. And fortunately, there are groups and stuff that I can go to and discuss with other people in the program where I'm at today and what's going on with me. And if I have an issue, I can talk to somebody about it and reach out to other people within that. So I don't necessarily go and pay for therapy now. Now I go for free therapy with those who have the same experiences.
Very cool.
But I took a lot of time meditating and doing all that fun stuff, which is helpful. I still try to meditate whenever I can. Most of my meditation, I have to joke because I'm not the only person who does it. It happens like in the shower. I take 10 minutes for myself to clear my head, breathe, and just, release like my thoughts, which is amazing. I think everybody should meditate at some point.
Yeah. I mean, I've never tried meditating myself, but I mean, it doesn't sound like a bad idea. I think people underestimate how important mental health is and how fragile it can be sometimes. And take those steps to be happier and to really get at the root of the problem and to take some time for yourself is very important. Life is all about balance. And certainly, and you got to have that in your life, no matter what you're doing.
Oh yeah, and it's funny because like it's not as hard as people want to make it out to be. Like I have to laugh at like all the Instagram posts and shit, and people, new year, new me, and
right.
I'm gonna focus on this. I'm gonna lay off that. Like I'm just like, yo, stop just fucking talking about it. Like if you just talk about it, and you just post it online. And you get 1,000 likes from it, that doesn't mean you did it. That just means that you shared the same shit that everybody else did.
Right. I mean, look, it's a step in the right direction. Like, talking about it, that's great, but, you got to do it at some point.
Yeah, and I think that really is what holds people back. Or what they think is them doing the work really isn't. If somebody's like, oh, I'm going to work on my temper, that... They don't go and like dive into themselves to find out why they have a bad temper or talk about their feelings. They just make a conscious decision to walk away when they're pissed off, which is a great start, but that's not getting to the fucking nitty gritty of what's going on in their life.
Sure.
Because I don't care what anybody says, you can trace all of that shit back. Like there's a point where you go, why did I start doing this? Why didn't I do this? Who is it that made me feel this way from like an early age? Like, there's always something. It's not just, oh, that's the way I am. Like, that's such horseshit.
Yeah. I mean, I think we're all a product of our experiences and our environment.
Absolutely.
And I mean, and we're all looking for answers. And it's not always easy to find. And that's one of those things where it's an ongoing process. And so with all that said, how are you doing now?
I'm fucking great, man. I'm doing well. I'm weird enough, like, so I picked up a part-time job while I was at home because I knew I had like 6 months off. So I was like, oh, I'm going to pick up some part-time work so I'm not just bored all the time.
Is this in Nashville or in Hendersonville?
Yeah, in Nashville, which turned into me like running my own shop out here.
What kind of shop?
I'm running a vape shop.
Oh, okay.
Which I know it sounds weird because everyone's like, the fuck, you're not touring because you run a vape shop, but there's, as I look at life, there's a greater purpose in all this. Because to me, I'm not sitting here like, oh, cool, how can I sell something that blows big cloud in 18-year-olds? And like, I'm not about that. That's not who I am. I'm really big getting people to quit smoking. And using a tool that I have found works for me and has worked for others around me to no longer smoke cigarettes.
Very cool.
And that's how I approach it is, my goal isn't to find some customer who's going to like buy a bunch of shit from me and make money and blah, blah, blah. Like, my goal is to get you to quit smoking and then one day get you to stop vaping. To me, it's a better alternative to smoking. Mm-hmm. It's still not like the end all be all. The end all be alls don't do any of that shit. So
yeah, I mean that's really cool to hear. I mean, obviously you're in it for a very noble reason. And you've always struck me as a guy who does enjoy working, or at least having that foundation, besides playing music.
Oh God, yeah. Well, yeah, because I mean, I don't want to like call what I've done as a profession for so long like not a real job, because it is work, but my job is other people's fantasies, essentially.
It's been mine for as long as I can remember.
Yeah,
right?
shit, it's still mine. Like, it is the dream job. Like, it's the fucking, I can wake up at, 2 in the afternoon, go do sound check, play a rock show, fucking hang out, blah, blah, blah. But for me, it's, like when I'm on tour, I wake up at 7 a.m., I go find coffee and breakfast and try to see local sites or something. But that's just because I'm like, well, if I'm here, I might as well take advantage of this. And I think a part of my appreciation for touring and music and being able to do that is the fact that I come home and work 9 to 5 and go do what everybody else is doing. Because to me, being a musician and having that lifestyle, it's a gift, but it's not like, oh, well, I do this, so I'm better. Like, I'm just like, no, you're lucky that you're musically inclined or talented in some way, and you got the 1 in a million chance to go do this. But I'm still just every other person on the street, and I like to continue to feel that way.
Do you ever feel like going and working a 9 to 5, like you said? Obviously, I imagine being in a touring band, I imagine you probably encounter, it probably seems like like you're living in a bubble. Like you're surrounded by people who have this same experience, but especially as a songwriter, when you're working 9 to 5, you get to meet sort of the average person on the street and kind of figure out what they like, what they don't like. And I could definitely see how that might provide, not only keeping you grounded, but maybe from a songwriter's perspective, just offering a little bit of, just perspective as well about what the average person is going through.
It does. There's, actually this segue is perfect in my mind. Have you watched on Netflix, they put out the Springsteen on Broadway thing?
No, I haven't seen that yet. I know you're a big Bruce fan. How was that?
Yeah. It's good. I'll love anything Bruce Springsteen, even if it's fucking bad. Like, that's fine with me. But the thing that I really took away from it that I loved, and I want to say he says this or starts talking about it in like the first 10 or 15 minutes of the whole special. And it's a long special. It's like 2 hours. Mm-hmm. And like I said, if you don't want to sit there and hear Bruce Springsteen sing acoustic and tell weird stories, it's not going to be enjoyable.
Right.
I love that shit. But he talks about, how he was the example of the working man for America. Sure. Like, in his music, he would tell these stories of, the tough times and getting your fucking hands dirty. And he was the guy who would get on stage looking like he just got out of the fucking, the coal mine with his dirty Levi's and the boots. You know that he has never had a real blue collar job, right?
I believe it. He was pretty young when he broke into the business, like mid-20s maybe. I don't know, back in the 70s.
Yeah. He by no means, he's not a working man. He knew how to tell the stories of the working man, and he has been the representative and the messenger of it. But he's never been the working, and he says it in it too. He's like, it's all bullshit. Which, hearing him say that, I'm like, fuck, you're right, dude. Like, why am I listening to you talking about breaking your back? The only way you're breaking your back is if you slipped off your fucking private jet. Right. Which I thought was really fun, but I love that he says it. He doesn't try to hide it.
Yeah, no, he's honest about it.
Yeah. But to me, I love that he's always been the messenger and the voice of the working man without actually being the working man. Now, I'm not saying that I want to be the new voice of the working man, but I feel like I come from this place, this more humble appreciation for it, because I do walk that line of I will get on stage and entertain you and enjoy that and be enthralled by it, but I will also go home, get a shitty night's sleep, be up at 7 a.m. to shower, to go to work for 8, 10, 12 hours, come home, make dinner, try and write a song before I crash out again on the couch, and just keep doing it all over again.
Do you think maybe it's like some of the issues that you mentioned, is it maybe partial guilt that you haven't maybe done that enough in your life, or I mean, I don't want to assume. I don't want to get in your head, but I can see how
Oh
something
no.
like that might be, more fulfilling, in terms of knowing that you're doing something.
So, and this actually does stem from a really interesting fucking point that I've actually talked to a few people about. With Black Tide, we garnered some really great success at an early age.
You guys had some steam there for a little bit.
Yeah, and we got things that we didn't really have to work for. Like, yes, we worked on being musicians and doing all that, but I guess we didn't have to feel like we were working too hard. Like, we didn't have to go and like play the shit. Like, we played plenty of shitty clubs to 5 people a night, but we didn't grind it out like some of our hero bands did.
Right.
And there were other people like in the industry, like other bands and crew guys that used to definitely like give a shit about it. They gave a shit on like, oh, you haven't really worked for it. So there's always...
Yeah, I remember you telling me the story about when you guys first got Ozfest and how that there was all the blowback behind that. But I mean, at the same time, like, I mean, no one could fault you for taking that kind of opportunity, though.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
But there's always been this thing ingrained in the back of my head that I have felt like, well, then if I'm going to be the dude that people are going to say didn't work hard to get that, then I will always make it a point to work harder for everything else.
I could totally see that. I totally, that makes sense. Absolutely.
Yeah. Like, because I don't want to say it was a feeling of guilt, but it definitely touched a nerve with me because I wasn't saying that they were wrong.
Right.
I'm just saying that in this situation, yes, did we get something that other people bust their ass for and we just got it fucking handed to us? Absolutely.
Right.
But that's not to say that I don't bust my ass in every other aspect of my life that garners me getting that kind of, what's the word I'm trying to think of? I guess getting any like notoriety or praise somewhere else.
Sure.
Like working hard in math and failing it, but then getting an A in science for whatever fucking reason. Like,
yeah,
if that even makes sense. But I guess that's that mentality that I have to I keep up with myself. I'm like, all right, well, cool. I'm lucky that I get this chance in music, so I might as well come home and bust my ass every day of the week to earn a paycheck and be like anybody else on the street. Because if I didn't have music, what am I worth?
Yeah, no, I could definitely see that, especially someone like yourself who's grown up in the business and just seen all kinds of crazy stuff at a young age. That absolutely makes sense. And
yeah.
And I mean, the good thing is that you don't necessarily have to go out and like dig ditches for a living, which
no, but
not that there's anything wrong with that. I mean, God bless them, the folks who are doing that, but at least this way you can open up a shop and you're also doing something that, for the right reasons.
Yeah, like I always say, like, because I would say this, gotta say this to like my family and all that shit, like, if I came home tomorrow, like, and had nothing to do, I didn't have a band or something, and I had to make money, like, I'm gonna go work at fucking McDonald's, dude. I'll go work I'll stock dairy at Walmart. I don't care. Like, for me, I don't have, like, some weird pride about shit. Like, that drives me insane. When people say they can't find work, but I see that McDonald's is always fucking hiring,
right.
I'm like, listen, I know it's not the ideal job, but it's okay to go flip burgers if you don't have money, because I'd rather make a living and eat something than rely on a fucking handout or like begging like my family for shit.
Right.
Or something.
Well, I mean, plus that's a good way of getting health insurance, and whatnot.
Absolutely. Like, fuck, I haven't had health insurance in forever till now.
And look, let's also be honest about it. I mean, I don't know how much. I'm not going to ask you how much you're making on these falling and reverse tours. I imagine you're doing okay, but like, I think about something I heard about a while ago about take Vinnie Paul, God rest his soul.
Mm-hmm.
There was something I read. I don't remember where, but that he said that he made more money in some of his side business ventures. Like, he had a few restaurants and everything. He said he made more money with that than he did with Pantera. which is crazy to think about. That blew my mind. But I imagine, especially nowadays with the way the business is, I imagine that's got to be a lot more common.
Oh, it is. And it's funny because like I feel like it's like the untalked about like truth of the industry. Although more and more people discuss, like there are people in, I don't want to say like really big bands. Like if you're selling out fucking arenas and 5,000 people, like 5,000 people a night halls and larger, you probably aren't coming home to work a job.
Right.
But if you are the opening act for one of those, or you are a band who headlines and plays to 1,000 people a night, there is a good chance that you are working when you're home. Now, not for everybody. Everybody's business is done very differently,
sure.
But it's not uncommon. For me, if I have too long a period off, I'm going to need to work.
Sure.
Because as great as I can be at saving money, I can be just as good at fucking spending it. And
I hear you, bro.
Yeah, and even just like, not even like going and doing lavish shit. Like, it's not like, I went to fucking New York like every weekend for a month or something stupid like that. Literally just the daily life shit, or like, you know what? Maybe I do want to go fucking eat out at this one restaurant that's a little more expensive than I should be, jumping into. Or, maybe it is time for a new fucking TV. Or, I want those boots. Like, I have those same needs and desires that anybody else does. But there is definitely that thing where you got to sit back and go, cool, I can live off fucking ramen in a one bedroom or in a studio apartment in the middle of nowhere by myself. Or I can try to build more, save more, build a life, like, house, family, dreams, all that shit. Like, you have to do something for it. You can't think you're going to do one thing. Like, if you look at, the 10 richest people in the world, they have like 13 or 14 like sources of income. Like something just insane. Like, why wouldn't you do that for yourself?
Yeah, and I mean, even in the music business, even in the rock world, I mean, you even look at some of the older cats who were in bigger bands, like Sammy Hagar, for example, and his tequila business and owning bars, and Vince Neil owns several clubs, and so certainly some of the older generation kind of has that, but yeah, I mean, and like what I said about Vinnie Paul, I imagine stuff like that is probably not only more common, it's probably even more of a necessity nowadays.
Oh, absolutely. And like I said, it doesn't come from like a place of like, oh shit, well, I don't make any money, or I'm not successful, or fuck the fans, they don't buy enough merch. Like, it doesn't come from a place of that.
No,
it just comes
from
it strictly comes from a place of I want to do more.
Yeah. You don't want to be just this one thing.
Yeah, because I can actually speak about, I don't want to say speak freely about the financial aspect of what Black Tide was.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to go into details on that. That's a personal thing,
But like to really break it down, from the time that band got signed to the day that I quit, so we're talking, let's say, 7 years from like the point that like we got a record deal and all that kind of stuff. If you broke down what I made yearly, I could have made that same money as a shift manager at a fucking Burger King.
Wow.
And a shift manager at Burger King makes roughly 28 to 34 a year, I think. Sounds about right. Actually, weird enough, I actually saw something about how much they make recently. So yeah, like somewhere between there's what I was good for a year in Black Tide, maybe even less on some years where we weren't as busy.
Sure. No, and honestly, I think this conversation is very important to have and very important to get out there, especially if anyone listening, especially some of the younger kids who look at bands like this, or maybe they have ideas about what it takes to chase their dream, to at least know the realities of the situation.
Yeah. Like just because you're like in a quote unquote successful band doesn't necessarily mean that you have a fucking mansion, drive a Porsche, and
Absolutely.
everything's like
Absolutely.
beautiful. Like,
And not to name drop here, but a couple years ago, I was talking to James Hart from 18 Visions about this very same thing.
oh yeah, who's like, I love that dude. Like, I've known him for a minute, but yeah, he goes home and he fucking cuts hair.
Yeah.
And he's really good at it.
Sure.
Like, I want to say he has his own salon now, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, he's out somewhere out west in California. I don't know.
Yeah, I think he's in like Huntington or somewhere around there.
Yeah, I know he's from that area because he came up with the Avenged guys. But yeah, no, James is a cool dude, and he was out of the business for a little bit, then got back together with 18 Visions. Not sure what they're doing now. I gotta shoot him a text or something. But yeah, it would be nice to catch up with him. But yeah, that's another case of a guy whose work I was a fan of, and now we're just talking like a couple of regular dudes. So
yeah,
but
but that is like the reality of it. Like, just because everything's all fucking great.
Yeah, just because you have a song on the radio doesn't necessarily mean you're a multimillionaire.
No, and it's funny because like you always see like these posts on like Instagram of people like living their best life and blah blah blah, like, right. Oh, look at where I'm fucking at, and I'm like, yeah, but are you fucking happy? Because like, if you got to spend this much time posting pictures for validation of shit, like, that doesn't mean that your life is great.
It's like, what are you overcompensating for?
Yeah, and I'm not saying that's everybody. I'm not saying that. I'm not talking about anybody in particular. I'm just saying, like, fuck it, Kim Kardashian, she can post all this, like, bullshit, what's going on, like, how she's busy, she's doing this, she's doing that. At the end of the day, I'm like, yo, your husband is massively famous. You can't go anywhere without being bombarded by paparazzi and fans, and everyone wants to scrutinize you for your clothing company and your pictures with your children and whatever fucking racy photo you posted today. Like, I know her life is not that lavish because she's probably under a ton of stress all the time.
I can't imagine what it must be like. I mean, I remember talking to, my dad and I were talking about like the royal family in England, for example. You're born into privilege, but can you imagine the expectations that you have at all times?
Oh, I love that you brought up expectations, because I've been like, just, I don't want to say watching and reading like things about like self-help, but more like coming to understand yourself in the sense of time and what a fucking like amazing commodity time is for you. Because this thing of like, I guess it sort of transitions the right way. This thing of like people between the ages of like 18 and 29 and trying to get everything accomplished and live up to what they see every day on social media and on TV and in movies.
Oh, yeah.
Like this grind that they're trying to push out while they're fucking 21 and like, I have to make it today in whatever I'm doing or else I'm a failure.
Absolutely.
I don't understand why people think that if they don't get it done before they're 30, that they're not going to be successful.
Yeah, no, I know exactly what you're talking about because I've felt the same way a lot of times in my life. I still feel that way sometimes, and I'm 35. So, I mean, yeah.
Like, here's the thing. You're 35. You have a house, a career, a wife, 2 kids. Like, that's fucking amazing. You're 35 and you own a house.
I do.
Like think about that. I'm 30. I've never owned a house. I've barely owned a car. When I'm 35, if I can somehow have a house, a car, and like a fucking wife and child, to me, I'm like, I've made it.
That's like, cool, man. I mean, coming from you, that means a lot to me, man.
Dude, it's fucking, like, think about, and this also goes back to like that same thing, these weird expectations that people and I'm a dude who's 30. I'll be 31 this year. Mm-hmm. So it's coming to this, like, this most recent realization that when I was 22, I was like, I met the fucking love of my life. I've got the career I've always wanted. I'm on my way. I'm going to retire at 40. Like, the reality is none of that fucking worked out because that's not how life is. And the fact that I was stressing about it for years, like, why can't I have all of this now? What's taking so long? I'm in my 20s. my 20s are the years I'm supposed to be a fucking idiot. Like that is when you find out what it is you love, why it is you love this career, what you're going to do as you grow up and be an adult. Like, it's not the 30s and the 40s and the 50s where you had your wife at 22 in a career and you're going to be a slave to it till you're 65
Sure.
and retire and you're going to have a pension. Like,
Yeah.
that is not a thing. Like you have to realize and adapt and realize that, yeah, back then that did make more sense. Life expectancy was your late 60s.
Yeah. It's like in our parents' and grandparents' generation.
Yeah, life expectancy now is like your fucking late 80s, 90s.
Right.
Like, cool, I don't need to have it figured out at 22. Now, by 32, I better have a better fucking idea of it. But, like I don't know what the rush is. It's not going anywhere.
Yeah, I mean, that could be a whole separate podcast just talking about that sort of thing. But
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think most people, I think it's easy for certain types of people, I should say. I don't want to say most people, but a lot of people, and I've felt that way in my life. You have certain goals and expectations of where you want to be in life, and when you don't meet that, it can be just crushing.
Absolutely.
You know, and you know, my wife is even more like that. You know, in that she's definitely got that type A personality. I don't quite have that, but it's sort of a similar type of thing where you expect these things to happen. Like I got out of college and grad school, and I still didn't have a job for a couple of years. I was still living at home with my mom and dad, and you know, it wasn't until like 27, 28 where I finally got the job at the company I'm working at now. And you know, so it took a while for me to get there, but I think it just makes it all that much sweeter when you do get to where you want to be.
It does. And it's funny because, like, all of this, like, is exactly why I am who I am now, and, like, how I've gotten to this point in my life is through these weird, subtle realizations of, like, of what it is that I want out of my life. And, you know, part of, like, all this time off from touring and really getting to, like, focus on me and do my own thing, I've been writing more songs, like, by myself. I've been, you know, I've done 2 benefits now for Best Buddies Tennessee. Like, I'm finding what it is that I want to do and how I want to express myself in the future. And, you know, there's, like every other fucking dude in a band, I'm like, it'd be so cool to do my own thing one of these days. Sure. And now I'm kind of like, well, I want to do it because I want to do it. Not because I'm like, I'm going to be fucking famous or I'm going to sell 1 million records. Like, no, dude, I want to do it because now I can be honest in my writing and I can be honest with myself. And I don't give a shit if I play to 20 people a night and nobody buys my album. Like, I just want to go do it because I can. And it's something that I want to do because I've never gotten to do it.
Sure.
And it's interesting to, like, get to that point because God knows how many fucking songs I've written since I picked up a guitar. Mm-hmm. But to sit down now and finally be like, oh, cool, these are real songs that I like. Like, I would listen to my songs.
Yeah.
Like, I was never at that point in my life, ever.
Totally. Well, I mean...
And now I'm there.
Yeah, well, now, I mean, you know, a lot of what we've been talking about has been you taking a step back from being on the road, working in the vape shop, kind of getting everything, getting things a little more settled in your life, kind of enjoying being away from the road. So I guess, I mean, you don't have to have this all figured out now, but do you have more of an idea of what things will be like going forward in terms of years from now?
Yeah, so I, kind of going back a little bit on that, like, figuring it all out thing. I'm at this place now where I have a goal for 10 years from now. I've taken the stress off of myself of trying to, you know, attain some fucking goal in 2 years or something, because then I'm just going to drive myself insane, especially if I don't meet that goal. Mm-hmm. So my goal now is in 10 years, hopefully before, but in the next 10 years, I will have at least 2 records out of my own. Okay. And I'd like to be able to be of a status where I can sell out a room that holds 500 people.
It's pretty solid. I mean, especially with someone with your experience, I feel like that's attainable.
Yeah.
I feel like
But
you could do that.
And it's funny because, like, well, in my head, I'm like, that's an attainable goal, not just, like, for me. Like, fortunately, I have, like, this minuscule following in the grand scheme of things.
Mm-hmm.
But if I just get up and I grind it out and I do what it is I want to do, I should be able to do that. That might all fucking flop. It might do better than I want, but I'm not trying to fucking be the next Bruce Springsteen. I just want to do what I want to do, and hopefully at some point in my life people will, I guess, be in tune with whatever it is I'm putting out. You know, it's just me doing me. You know, it's honest and it's who I am,
Gotcha.
Opposed to trying to, like, do, like, you know, what's that fucking Nickelback song, Rockstar?
Mm-hmm.
Like, the lyrics to that song, I think they're fucking hilarious because it's literally about, like, selling out, quote unquote. But I'm like, I don't have to fucking do that. I can just go be me. And if somebody vibes with it, cool. If they don't, that's fucking fine.
Cool.
I'll still find a way to eat.
Awesome. Now, do you still see Falling in Reverse maybe 5-10 years from now? Do you still see that being part of the picture?
I mean, I hope so. I haven't, it's, my favorite question is, like, on Instagram when people are like, oh, what happened? Why aren't you there? Something bad must have happened. And I'm like, no, nothing bad happened. Why is it everybody just assumes the fucking worst? Like,
Right.
it's...
Yeah, but I feel like as fans we've been conditioned to think that, you know, it's sort of being growing up on stuff like Behind the Music. You think that there's drama there, and that might not always be the case. Yeah,
no, there's no drama. It's just, hey, I'm gonna go do this. I need some time off. Like, is that cool?
Mm-hmm.
And it was just like, yeah, man, do your shit. Like, all right, cool. See you when I fucking see you. I would love to, 5 years down the line, 10 years down the line, still be with them doing stuff. I don't know, like, the future of anything with that, but I don't see why that wouldn't happen.
Sure.
Like, I hope it does. I love those dudes.
Yeah, and from what I understand about Ronnie, I know he's had, issues with, addiction and getting clean and all that. I don't know where he is with that, but I imagine he's someone who you can definitely relate to as far as that sort of thing goes.
Oh, absolutely. He was so fucking supportive of me through all that shit. Like, I was living with him on a bus during that tour and my dwindling, and he saw me go from, like, this really happy, well put together dude when he met me to me being like, I have to fucking go to rehab. Like, he watched it happen. And, like, when I told him I was going to rehab and, like, I had to get sober and I had to make some changes in my life, like, dude was nothing but supportive and there for me. Like, I couldn't, there's no way I could ever repay him for what he did for me. And, like, still just was always like, hey, man, like, if you need time off from touring because of that, like, I understand. Like, if you want to just fucking tour forever, like, let's do it. Like, dude's been nothing but gracious and amazing with me. Like, I fucking love that guy to death.
That's
I would
awesome.
do anything for him.
Yeah, no, he sounds like a cool dude. Hopefully I'll get to meet him one of these days. But yeah, no, and so, I mean, obviously those are your goals within music. What about outside of music? The stuff, the stuff with everything else. I mean, you've got the vape shop. Anything, like, sort of outside the business that you feel like you want to accomplish within the next few years, or?
I mean,
not to put you on the spot or anything. I'm just
no,
just
not
curious.
at all. Yeah, I mean, the usual start a family, own a house, that kind of shit. Like, I want all of that. I personally would love to get into some more, like, as I've done all these, like, charity funds and stuff, like, I kind of want to get into that more, because I love taking, like, art and passion and using it for something good. I'm a really big believer in, like, you have this voice, you have the opportunity to use it. Why wouldn't you do some good with it? I constantly will, and, like, only people around me will hear it, obviously. I will talk shit all day about people like Justin Bieber and fucking all these big pop stars. not because like of their music or even how they carry themselves as a person or, you know, anything else on social media. But I'm like, if you had such a big fucking platform, literally the world hangs at everything you say, why wouldn't you use that for good? Why wouldn't you use it for educating on mental health, the effects of drugs and alcohol, especially on younger people? Like, why wouldn't you use your voice for something just so fucking profound that can, even if it doesn't help everybody, it changes one fucking person's life or helps them realize something? Like, why wouldn't you do it?
Yeah, no, I agree. And I definitely admire guys who have gone and done stuff like that. One guy who I've been a fan of for a while, and even though he's taken a ton of heat over the years, and I've certainly taken a lot of heat for being a fan of his, but you look at a guy like Scott Stapp,
Yeah.
there's a guy who, for everything he's taken heat for over the years, he does a lot of charity work and does a lot of outreach activities and organizations that he gets involved in. So like stuff like that, I always really admire people who use their platform to try and help others.
Yeah. And like, I have this thing like, where, yeah, I can sit there and be like, why isn't this one loud voice shouting from the fucking rooftops? But I also realize that isn't always what carries the message. What carries the message is, a million smaller voices shouting it. I feel like that's a bigger impact. So I love when a bunch of like, people who don't have that platform can get together, and it doesn't have to be like, I'll say it like, I want Bieber to fucking do it because he has whatever 56 million followers on social media. Like,
have you ever gotten the chance to meet some of those cats? Like, I guess you guys ran in different circles, but I was just curious.
Not Bieber. There are one or two pop stars I've had interactions with in really interesting fucking settings.
Yeah, I imagine your boy Spence probably runs into a lot of them these days.
Oh yeah. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
Funny enough, I ran into him on the fucking street while I was in LA.
Really?
Yeah, I thought he was out of town. He didn't know I was in town. I bumped into him on a fucking corner. It was kind of great.
He's been on this show, by the way. Good dude.
Oh yeah, I fucking love Steve. Like, we still talk all the fucking time. But yeah, like there's something to me about starting in your community and building, because that's true for anything, be it a business, a fucking movement, just straight up real community outreach where everybody in your neighborhood is on the same page for at least one thing. You can disagree on everything in life. I don't care what somebody's fucking political sidings are on anything. That still doesn't mean you don't want to care for your fellow man and see everybody directly around you succeed.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I was actually just going to mention something like that, where it's like, I would much rather see what people do in terms of like, helping their fellow man and doing something that helps other people, rather than pontificating about trying to push a particular agenda. Or, you get a lot of activists out there and people who, want to push, whatever social/political agenda. And especially with celebrities, that turns me off more than anything else. Like, regardless of what side of the fence you fall on, it's like, just shut up and sing, or shut up and play your guitar.
Yeah.
But
like, that's why to me, like, it is that if you have that platform, use it for something that's universally, I guess, universally unifying. Like, I don't care that somebody wants to be like, we don't want war here, we want war here, or this or that. I want you to be like, how can we help people?
Sure. Yeah.
Like, how can you just be a good humanitarian?
Look at guys like Bono, for example.
Yeah.
Look at everything he's done.
Oh, yeah. It's funny, Joe Rogan, who I love and hate, he might be one of my favorite people in the world to listen to, but at the same time, I just want to be like, stop talking sometimes.
Yeah.
But because he's just on every extreme you can imagine,
he goes hard.
I get it. But he said something in one of his podcasts recently, like, what was he talking about? He was talking about, like people getting like separated from their kids and shit, crossing the border and this and that. Like, he had his opinion on it, but how he brought up part of it was he was like, listen, he's like, at the end of the day, if you are somebody who thinks that a person shouldn't be with their family, he's like, then you're not on our team. He's like, I don't care what side you vote for. He's like, if you're somebody who thinks somebody else should be harmed and their child should be ripped away from them, you are not on my fucking team. He's like, because we should all be on the same team with some very basic humanitarian, like, standpoints. And I'm like, yeah. Like, I don't care what side of the fucking border you're on. Keep them together.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. But,
and, like, it's like, it's from, like, the most basic point of it. Like, obviously there's, varying sides of all that shit. But,
yeah.
But, like, just the straight humanitarian aspect of it, like, why would you want that feeling? Like, imagine if that happened to you or this and that. Like, he's like, if you're on our team, that means that you want people to succeed and be happy and do things the right way. Like, which I'm fucking all on board for. Because that's really sometimes the way you have to break it down, is this most, take the fucking zoom lens and zoom way the fuck out and just go, cool, how's everybody not going to be upset?
Sure. And honestly, I think most people genuinely do want that, regardless of what policy they may or may not support or how they may feel about a certain situation. I think most people, I'd like to think that most people genuinely do want, or at least most people don't want to see people being harmed.
Right.
I think that's sort of a universal thing for the most part.
Yeah, but like that's, you sometimes you have to break it down to that more simple mindset of just like, what does everybody want? They want them and theirs to be taken care of. They want to be happy. They want food on their table. They want to make money. Cool. How do we make that happen for everybody?
Yeah. Maybe we have different ideas on how to get there, but let's talk about it.
Right. Then let's find a way to get there together.
Sure.
Like, it's just the most simple human factor of it. Like, I don't care what side you're on. You need to eat. You need a roof over your head and you need to eat.
Right. Very cool. Wow, man, we kind of got off on a tangent there, but
that's fine.
It's great. No, that's what I love about this. No, but anyways, I was just gonna say, I mean, I feel like you and I could talk for hours about a variety of different topics, but I think we're gonna leave off there. I didn't even ask about the most recent Falling in Reverse stuff, which hopefully maybe one day we'll have to get together and do this again.
Oh yeah, no, we will
catch up on all that.
Yeah, the nice summary on the most recent stuff.
Yeah.
It came out great. People liked it, and it's fun to fucking play.
There you go. And I know you actually did a Black Tide reunion show a couple years ago with Gabe and Austin, I believe.
Yeah, last year.
Which was really cool. I wish I could have been there for that one.
Weird enough, it was my idea. Because I just thought it'd be cool to do a hometown show, and I hit up the guys about it. It was like, I think I had like a month off, and I was like, let's get together in a room, try to play these songs, and if they sound good, let's play a show.
How did that go?
I think it went well. We actually tracked all of it. We multi-tracked the show.
No kidding.
And I'll be honest, my laziness is kind of what's kept it from being used for anything, mostly because I got busy and then was like, oh yeah, I fucking did that. I swear to God, I'm going to fucking mix it. I'm going to make it sound great.
Nice.
And we've talked about releasing it, but then my mind goes a million different directions and I want to do more with it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I thought about trying to make a fucking documentary.
Really?
Mostly because it was like, here was a band that was set up for ultimate success and they had everything handed to them. Why the fuck didn't it happen?
I'd watch the hell out of that.
Yeah, I think it's just an interesting story because how many times do you hear about bands who are like, oh, this happened, they broke up, they didn't make it.
Mm-hmm.
But for us, it was, timing was fucking weird and it just never clicked.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what was the root of it? Because we were all in it, even though there was, of course, like any fucking family, there was inner turmoil, but
Sure.
that didn't really explain why it never got bigger.
Right.
And I think there's a story there, and I've thought about going into it. I don't even really know where to begin with some of that.
Yeah, no, no doubt. I mean, the beauty of it now is, though, if you ever did want to revisit that, that's certainly something you could do. Put it out on your own. I'm sure the fans would love it, and who knows?
Yeah,
that's the beauty about the world we're living in. But yeah, no, I mean, this has been so great to catch up with you and to talk about all this stuff and even get into your personal life. And I'm glad that you're in a much better place than you were when we met those 3 years ago.
Me too, man.
You sound like you're doing great, and I definitely want to make sure that that's still the case. So,
yeah, no, it will be.
Definitely. In the meantime, before we wrap up here, is there anything that you want to plug at this time, or anything you want to promote before we sign off?
Weird enough, only thing I want to promote. Not trying to sell anything. I'm not trying to fucking be anything I'm not. I just want people to continue supporting the arts, supporting each other. Doesn't matter what your fucking political views are, what somebody said, any bullshit. Just live and be happy. Like, it's being unhappy is the biggest fucking waste of time in the world. And while we all only get so much time on this planet, why not just fucking enjoy it?
Yeah, can't argue with that.
Yeah.
This is awesome, man. Zakk, we got to do this again sometime, man.
We definitely will. Awesome, man.
Thank you once again to Zakk Sandler for coming in and just giving another great conversation. He's definitely become one of my favorite guests I've ever had on this show. And if you haven't gotten the chance, please go back and listen to the first episode that I did with him. Just a really great conversation and a lot of great stories there. I do want to apologize. I know we didn't really get to too much of like the inner workings of Falling in Reverse, so I hope I didn't disappoint anyone out there, especially Falling in Reverse fans who might be tuning in on this. But the good news is that, even though he's not on this current tour, he's still in the band, and, we'll probably be back on the road in the future. So who knows what's going to happen with that. But check out fallinginreverse.com for all their tour dates. That'll have the links to all their social media as well. Again, just a fantastic conversation with Zakk Sandler. Just goes to show you, I guess it is true. The grass always does seem a little greener on the other side. Hearing us talk about our life experiences, which have been very, very different. It's funny. For the longest time, I had kind of envied, his position about, becoming a rock star in his teens and, living the life and making it in the industry. And here it is, talking to him years later, where he kind of envies my life. Where I'm a regular 9-to-5 guy. I've got a wife and the kids and, college degree and all that stuff. So, I mean, it just goes to show you, man. It's, you never know what someone else is going through, and you never know what someone else might want out of their life. And it's kind of cool to sit down with a guy like that and just kind of, compare different experiences and different stories we've had. So it's I'm really glad that I've gotten to form the friendship with this guy that I have, and hopefully you guys enjoy listening to it as well. Feel free to go back and listen to all the other episodes. If you're a Fallen in Reverse fan and you're wondering who I am, you can go back and listen to the first episode where I tell you all about me, and check out some of the other great guests I've had, including Zakk's old bandmate Steven Spence. That was an earlier episode that I did, But as always, thank you for listening to the Phoenix Report. Go back and listen to all the other episodes, like I mentioned. If you want to email me, you can email me at jackconnorpodcast@gmail.com. Like me on Facebook, facebook.com/jackconnormusic. I'm on Twitter at jackxconnor and on Instagram as well under that same name. You can check out my band, Vertebreaker, at facebook.com/vertebreakerband or on Twitter at vertebreakerfl, as in the state of Florida. Subscribe and notifications if you want to keep up with everything that's going on. Feel free to leave a comment or a question, and I would be happy to respond to that or answer any questions that might be out there. Again, this has just been such a pleasure. Thank you for tuning into the Phoenix Report. I'm Jack Connor. We'll see you later.